Napoleon Hill stared at the newspaper clipping, his hands trembling. Another article about a young entrepreneur who'd made his first million before 30. Hill crumpled the paper and threw it across his cramped apartment, watching it land beside a stack of unpaid bills and rejection letters. He was 42 years old, broke, and drowning in the poison of comparison. The year was 1925, and Napoleon Hill felt like the biggest failure in America. While other men his age were building empires and providing for their families, he was living paycheck to paycheck, chasing a dream that seemed more impossible with each passing day. His mission to interview successful people and uncover the secrets of achievement had become a cruel joke. How could he teach success when his own life was falling apart? Hill walked to his mirror and stared at the man looking back. Dark circles under his eyes told the story of sleepless nights spent calculating how far behind he was compared to everyone else. His neighbor had just bought a new car. His former classmates were prominent businessmen. Even his younger brother seemed to have it all figured out. "What's wrong with me?" he whispered to his reflection. "Why can't I be like them?" The question haunted him as he sat at his typewriter that evening, struggling to write another chapter of what would eventually become Think and Grow Rich. But how could he write about thinking and growing rich when he felt like the poorest man alive, not just financially, but spiritually? Hill's childhood had planted the seeds of this comparison trap. Growing up in a one-room log cabin in rural Virginia, he'd watched wealthier families from afar, wondering why fate had dealt him such different cards. His stepmother called him the worst boy in the county, and those words echoed in his mind whenever he saw others succeeding where he struggled. The breaking point came on a rain-soaked Tuesday morning. Hill had just received another rejection letter, the 15th publisher to pass on his manuscript. As he walked through downtown Chicago, he found himself window shopping at a high-end menswear store. Through the glass, he watched a well-dressed man his age trying on expensive suits, laughing with the salesman as if money were no object. Hill caught his own reflection in the window, shabby coat, worn shoes, the look of a man who'd given up. The contrast was devastating. He stood there for nearly an hour, torturing himself with the comparison until something shifted inside him. A memory surfaced from one of his interviews with Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate who'd first challenged him to study success. Carnegie had said something that Hill had written down but never truly understood. The starting point of all achievement is desire, but desire without a definite purpose is merely wishful thinking. Hill realized he'd been so busy comparing his chapter 1 to everyone else's chapter 20 that he'd lost sight of his own story entirely. He'd been measuring his worth by external standards instead of internal purpose. That night, he made a decision that would change everything. He wrote in his journal, "I will stop this madness of comparison. My journey is not their journey. My purpose is not their purpose. I will define success by my own standards and pursue it with unwavering faith." But changing a lifetime habit wasn't easy. The comparison demon whispered constantly. When he read about a young author's best-selling book, the old feelings would resurface. When he saw former colleagues advancing in their careers, doubt would creep in. The difference now was that Hill had tools to fight back. He began applying the very principles he was discovering in his research. First, he developed what he would later call definiteness of purpose. Instead of vaguely wanting to be successful like others, he defined exactly what success meant for him: to write a book that would help millions of people unlock their potential. This wasn't about matching anyone else's achievements, it was about fulfilling his unique mission. Second, he cultivated unshakable faith in his vision. Every morning, he would repeat to himself, "I believe I will succeed because I have the power to believe." When comparison thoughts arose, he'd counter them with affirmations about his own journey and purpose. Third, he committed to continuous personal growth. Rather than envying others' skills, he began studying them as lessons. When he met successful people now, instead of feeling inadequate, he asked himself, "What can I learn from this person that will help me become better?" The transformation wasn't instant, but it was real. He'll notice that as he stopped comparing himself to others, he started noticing opportunities he'd been blind to before. His energy, previously drained by envy and self-pity, was now channeled into productive action. His writing improved because he was no longer trying to sound like other authors. He was finding his own voice. One pivotal moment came during an interview with Henry Ford. Hill mentioned feeling behind compared to other writers his age, and Ford looked at him with piercing eyes and said, "Mr. Hill, every oak tree was once an acorn that held its ground. Stop looking at other trees and focus on your own growth." That conversation crystallized everything Hill had been learning. He realized that comparison was not just unproductive, it was the enemy of greatness. Every moment spent wishing he were someone else was a moment stolen from becoming who he was meant to be. Hill began teaching this principle to others, and the results were remarkable. Students who stopped comparing themselves to peers started achieving breakthrough results. Business clients who focused on their own unique value propositions instead of copying competitors found unprecedented success. The man who had once tortured himself by measuring his worth against others was now helping thousands break free from the same trap. His book, Think and Grow Rich, wasn't just about financial success, it was about the deeper wealth that comes from knowing and pursuing your authentic purpose. Hill's later writings revealed the depth of his transformation. He wrote extensively about how comparison kills creativity, destroys confidence, and robs people of their unique gifts. He'd learned that every person has a different starting point, different challenges, and different definitions of success. The irony wasn't lost on him. By stopping his obsession with being like other successful people, he became more successful than he'd ever imagined. By focusing on his own lane, he not only reached his destination but helped millions of others find their own paths. Years later, when Hill was finally recognized as one of the greatest success teachers in history, he would reflect on those dark days of comparison and feel grateful. Those struggles had taught him one of life's most important lessons: your only competition is who you were yesterday. Hill's message became clear and powerful: comparison is the thief of joy, the killer of dreams, and the enemy of authentic success. When you stop looking sideways at what others are doing and start looking forward at what you're becoming, everything changes. In his final years, Hill would often tell audiences about his journey from comparison to confidence. He'd share how his greatest breakthroughs came not when he tried to be like someone else, but when he had the courage to be uniquely himself. As Napoleon Hill once wrote, "You are the master of your destiny. You can influence, direct, and control your own environment. You can make your life what you want it to be." If you're watching this and finding yourself trapped in the comparison game, remember Hill's journey. Remember that the person you're comparing yourself to started somewhere different, faced different challenges, and is pursuing different dreams. Your path is yours alone. Stop measuring your chapter 1 against someone else's chapter 20. Stop letting other people's highlight reels make you feel inadequate about your behind-the-scenes struggles. Your time is coming, but only if you stop wasting it wishing you were someone else and start investing it in becoming who you're meant to be. The world doesn't need another copy of someone else's success. It needs the original version of your greatness.